Welcome to Brightly Radiant Being, the show that wildly recognizes, encourages, and invests in the radiance we all carry so you can shine your brightest. Each episode, we share soul-driven advice and topics to help you, goodness gracious, live more brightly in mind, body, and spirit. Through sharing our experiences, friendship, and passions, we hope to impact you to step more brightly into yourself inch by inch. I feel like the more I do it, the more mistakes I make.
It's because you were gone and you were missed. 1 week not hearing it or reading it, and it's just whoosh, it's out.
No, your solo podcast was brilliant. So I'm just going to say to the listeners, if you have not listened to Be Scared and Do It Anyway, I think that's the title of it. Listen to it. I actually listened to it twice. And
more than me.
yeah, well, you should, because it is good.
Thank you. It was kind of scary to do. And it really showed how much like this whole podcast thing or this chat, like how nice it is to have the reaction and engagement of someone else, right? And so I'm wondering if you have any reflections or learnings or anything you want to share on the episode, because I kind of feel like I robbed them of your perspective of the topic. Like I love learning from you as well on things. And so when it comes to being scared, did anything come up?
I mean, there were some visceral things when I think about Be Scared and Do It Anyway. Well, first of all, you and I have both done sort of what I think other people would think of as scary, because we've both done a solo episode, right? And that it was scary. And you and I both had false starts. And it could have been very easy to just go, we won't have an episode this week.
Oh, I thought about that. I thought about being like, you know what, Amy, this is kind of hard.
Yeah.
Why don't we wait and do it when you're back?
Yeah. So, because it was kind of hard for me as well. And I had false starts as well, where, so by false starts, we're talking about, we literally started the recording, or I started my recording, blah, 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 blah. Oh my gosh, that's stupid. Stop, leave the meeting, get rid of it. Like 3 times.
Well, and so that's the funny thing is we could absolutely do that when we record together. Like just now with the opening, I was going to be like, want to re-go? And you just went with it. And there's like this unspoken thing when we're doing it together that no, we just have to hold hands and push through, right? Like,
well, and so that goes back to your episode that if you're going to do something scary, you were talking about jumping out of an airplane and that you have to do it in tandem your first time. And so when you're doing scary things, it's way easier to do it in tandem, right? I mean, it's just easier with a partner.
And that's why in the movies, in the horror movies, when they're like, let's split up, it's not going to go well.
No.
You should always have the buddy system.
Yes, always.
Well, you were off doing something on your own. Maybe not as scary, but equally exciting. What were you up to?
Well, there were moments of scariness, not what you traditionally think of as scary, but I had the most wonderful, I almost said wonderfulest. I guess I did say it because I just said it. Opportunity through a very good friend to take a weekend, go to a hotel and write. And that's what I did. So I was gone from Friday afternoon. I didn't have to check out until Sunday later afternoon. So I had just this solid amount of time to dedicate to writing. And I didn't go far. I was, probably like 3 miles from home. So if I had forgotten something, I could have just driven home, but I didn't. And I, we've shared that I did finish the first draft of the book. And so what this was after going through it and making all kinds of notes, this was literally taking a bunch of stuff out, putting a bunch of other stuff in, making it cohesive so that it literally made sense from page 1 to page, it's not that long. It's like page 239 or whatever. And then I got home and I sent it off to a beta reader. And then, of course, the minute I send, I went, oh,
Shoulda, woulda,
no,
coulda.
I got to add this. And why didn't I think of that? And that doesn't make sense. And I need to explain that better. But Tracy, when I was telling you that, you brought up a great point. You were like, but you probably wouldn't have gotten to that point if you hadn't done all the rest of that. If you hadn't actually gotten to the point where you sent it off, you
And
wouldn't have
again,
had those.
what a great example of how even in a solo project, like having another person, how important they are to the process. So even if that person doesn't give you any feedback, even if they didn't think of those things that you thought about, like just that act of being like, oh, I'm going to share it with someone, like prompted you to think of all these additional things.
Well, and I also had like the silent partner as well, my friend who was just like, let me gift this. I have points. I'm going to gift this to you. I mean, how amazing is that? And I feel like I opened myself up to allow myself to accept that, because I feel like there was a point in my life where I would have just been, no, I can't accept that.
And I mean, how amazing, like it takes a village, right? Like, yes, this is your story, but once you put it out into the world, it belongs to the readers, right?
Yeah.
And so how great to know, like you have these people that have been with you and supportive of you on this journey.
Yeah.
Since the start. So it's great that you were able to accept that and to allow this to come out. Because, you know, we've talked about, we both, you know, live in an environment where we have room to do our hobbies and our projects and to work or to do specific tasks. And we have people in our lives that all, you know, either support us or go and leave us alone. But there's something about going to a brand new environment that helps you focus and just get the job done.
It does. It does. So I'm trying to figure out how I can create that space in my own, like my own little corner, in my own little room. I can be whatever I want to be, right? So in my office, I'm trying to figure that out. And obviously it wouldn't be a solid 2 days. Well, I said that earlier to Tracy and she's like, why not? So
well, did you just say and be who I want to be?
I did.
What's that process look like? That goes right into this week's topic.
It actually does go right into this week's topic. So I have a tendency, I hear something like, oh, I hear this vague, amorphous thing, and I glom onto it because I like the way it sounds, but I don't really know what it means or what it would entail. And so I wanted to do this episode on, well, first of all, let me back up. I'm not going to tell you what it's on yet. So I don't really understand it, right? But luckily, sometimes I give myself room to understand certain things. But during the autumn equinox, the night of the equinox, I actually wrote, I had a bonfire and I wrote in my notebook, these are the words I wrote. I don't know what this means, what it could entail, but, and then I wrote, reclaiming the mysterious wild. And I was just like, ooh, because I had heard of rewilding for women. It's mainly for women, but men, of course, can do it as well.
I mean, rewilding is a botanist term in nature. And so I love taking that for women. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I mean, I was going to ask you, Tracy, what, just like reclaiming the mysterious wild, does that bring anything up for you?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of it's the fun thing, words like alchemy, right? That like you kind of know what it means, but if you had to describe it or define it to someone else, you're like, alchemy, like an alchemist.
It's cool,
right? Like it's exactly what it is,
right? To describe it, right? The actual words themselves. Yeah.
And so reclaiming, like what a fun verb, right? And like what a powerful verb, I should say. And so that to me is fun.
Brings up like it's been there. Yeah.
And it's, I mean, it's a taking back. So either something that was taken from me or that I lost or that I gave away, but didn't know what I was giving away or didn't really want to at the time, but maybe felt I had to because of society or something else, right? So it starts off with such a powerful action word, and then mysterious. And who doesn't like mysterious things, right? Like, I
Do you
wish
think,
I could
are
be
there people
mysterious.
that don't like mysterious things, do you think?
Yeah, maybe. But like, I'm somebody that I'm such an earth sign. Like, I am exactly what I look like I am. And I say it like it is. I don't have many
Yeah.
secrets. I'm a pretty open person, and I try, and to me that's a character thing, right? But like, mysterious people are always like, they could be like a total noob at home, right? Like, just like a silly, crazy, just like not at all like sexy, mysterious person, day to day, but like out in the public or interacting with strangers, they just like have this air about them that makes you wonder, like, ooh, who are they? Or something fun to figure out. And then a word like wild, right? Like,
Yeah.
um, are for me, my life, I'm the sole breadwinner of my life. I had COVID, and although I had many friends who would have helped, like, I had to take care of me, right? Like, and I have my own homework I have to do, and I have to take care of my house and all this type of stuff. But like, just the thought of like, I think I've thought several times this year when things kind of got a little bit busy, where it's like, I just want to go live in a van down by the river. Like, I just want to be wild and free. I just want to run around in the woods and be one with nature, and like run naked in the full moon and like all this stuff. And it's just like,
Yes.
and then Monday rolls around and it's like, gotta log in on my little keyboard and move my little mouse and
So
push virtual paper.
I honestly, that run naked under the full moon, like, that literally is sort of like the visual motto of what reclaiming the mysterious wild sort of means to me. It's sort of, and it reminds me of Practical Magic, the aunts that when
Yes.
they take the nieces, the grandnieces, the great nieces away, and they go to this thing and they do this mysterious stuff under the moon, and you don't see it, but the little
Mm-hmm.
girls come back, they're like, we were naked under the moon.
But
But
it's
that's,
also, I mean, like, the wild, like, it just makes you think of like being a little kid and running around outside and not caring if
yeah,
you have like a stick in your hair, right? And just like running
right,
barefoot and free. So
right.
reclaiming the mysterious wild to me, I guess, is kind of about like a magical freedom and whatever magic means to you in that sense. But like,
Yeah.
it's away from the humdrum, what do I wear to this event? How should I do my hair? Did I meal plan and prep enough? Like, did I pay my bills on time? It like moves you away from that and back
Yeah,
into,
it feels a little bit of like, kind of like when we were talking about freedom and what that kind of means as well. I'm glad you brought up the botany thing,
yeah.
because that I was looking at that. I was like, I hadn't really, I heard the term rewilding, meaning it from,
There's like a movement right now in
yes,
the
it is a
mystical
movement,
circles
and
and the
that's what
women
I heard.
empowerment. Yeah.
Yes, that's what I heard first, and then I heard about, like, in the nature, like, you're literally rewilding areas to go back to their natural state, and you do it naturally, but sometimes you have to remove man-made blocks. I was like,
Mm.
this is so, you can translate this literally, right? So you remove the dams, the dikes, the things like that, so that the river can flow the natural way, so that the grasses can grow again. And so, of course, when you think about like removing these man-made blocks, it's like, what blocks have we created? Has society created? What beliefs have we just glommed onto and are, grasping with our, fists tight? And it feels like, if you think of it like literal dams, literal,
Oh,
ah,
well, I have a real world example.
what?
So, a
Yeah.
mile from my house is a park behind a Hy-Vee grocery store of all places.
Okay.
And it's very hidden. I mean, they have a sign, but you have to go through a neighborhood and then you drive through a dog park and then there's like a little park pavilion, and it seems very man-made nature thing, but if you know where to go, there are these dirt trails that lead to these. I mean, you're allowed to be there, like these hiking trails and things like that. Um, but there's like iron and concrete and broken up roads and what I imagine are maybe buildings or old train tracks. And there's like at least a mile or two of, and I've asked a few people. I suppose I could go to like City Hall or the Historic Society and find out, but like it was very clearly a highway before or a railroad. And so it's really
Yeah.
fun to hike back there. And like it's full blown nature. Like nature has reclaimed it. There's a marsh that because like you said, they removed a dam or something else. And so it's wetlands now and half of it. And then this park and this reclaimed space. And like to see the trees growing up through these slabs of asphalt and concrete and these weird things that they
Yes.
just like broke up and threw in a pile, right? And to see nature take it back over, it just makes me think of that movie what is it, urban, what's the Will Smith one where there's a virus that I am
Oh, yeah.
legend. Yeah,
Yeah.
and like how they like show New York City or Chicago or wherever he is, and there's just like grass growing in the tunnel, and just kind of like how
Well,
nature finds a way.
I feel like the Discovery Channel or History Channel, some cool channel, did a whole series on what would happen to the world if
Yes, and
humans
how many
left. Like,
years
yeah,
until
like 5 years after humans left, it was ridiculous what the
oh
world
my
would
God.
look like.
Between my surgeries last year and my city not doing lawn and garden pickup this year, my garden took very little time to be like, you know what? The earth owns this. You no longer get to plan what we do out here. And I'm not talking just like, oh, I had some weeds and stuff. I'm talking tree type structures and shrubs almost as tall as my garage in the span of a year and a half,
Amazing.
right?
Yeah.
That like if I hadn't have just gone out there, like the city probably would have been like, whoa, what are you doing? But like that's why I like the term rewilding, is because it's not what it was before, but there's like an essence of like this new type of wilding or something, finding what was there or what could have been. Like you don't have to create and figure out what being wild means in your life. Like you're going back to something you already know.
Yeah. And I feel, yes, I think that's so important. I love that you're going back to something, whether today you might not consciously know it, but if you allow that space, and you allow yourself the freedom to explore, I think that you could get to it. And I also feel like it would probably be this shifting, changing thing, just like nature can be, right?
Well, I was just gonna say there's like an integration. So my garden that I
Yeah.
want there is still there, but there's all this wild and new and different and other stuff that has popped up.
Yeah.
And so, in terms of rewilding, you're never gonna know what it would have been like to just run wild and free from 5 years old on to now without society's influence
Well,
and
it would be Wolf
responsibilities.
Boy. That's what it would be.
Like whatever wild you go back to is going to be influenced and will have to be integrated with everything you've been doing since stepping away from that more free part of you.
Mhm. I really love it that you bring up the integration. And I think that so often we think it has to be like just this thing or just that thing, where actually you can integrate the two. You could have this rewilding and fit it into your life where you have to work and like cook dinner and things like that.
And it's not going to stress you or take away. Like it's going to make those other parts of you better, even if you're not showing up
Right.
barefoot and,
Because you'd still be showing up more as
yourself.
your essence, yourself, your true self, right? I am taking, because this is how my life works. I decide to do this show on rewilding, and I follow this woman, Sabrina Lynn, and she is all about rewilding. And she's doing this 4-day free workshop on rewilding. And she names it something like the mysterious rewilding or something like that. I'm like, what? What the hell? Anyways, but I signed up for it.
What's it been
So,
like so far? Or did it start?
yes, it did start. And I just started. Very interesting. She's very, I can be dramatic. She is way more dramatic than I am.
What does dramatic mean to you? I do not think you could. I would never. That drama and dramatic do not come to mind. So I have to know what you mean by that.
What I mean by that is I was voted most dramatic for the senior yearbook. And what that meant was like a person who was in a lot of plays. But I was voted most dramatic. It was in a new school and I hadn't been in a play yet.
Oh.
And so they were voting me most dramatic because this is me. Oh my gosh. Have you seen this? It's the greatest thing ever. That's what I mean by most dramatic.
See, and I would say that is like, I totally agree. That does mean dramatic in society, I guess. But I would be like, that's big emotions and enthusiasm and like the freedom and willingness to share that. Most people don't. They clamp it down.
Yes. And so when you are watching someone who's very emoting and talking with her hands, and so I'm sure it's a lot of projection because I'm like, is that what I look like? Is that how I look to other people? But her messages, poor Tracy. Yeah.
Sorry if you heard that.
Messages have been very good. So like I said, I just started it and just some initial takeaways. And I might have to look at my notes because heaven forbid I remember what my takeaways are. Oh yeah. Okay. One thing she was talking about was letting go and not the pushing and the striving. And when she was talking about that, I kept thinking again about Frozen and the song Let It Go and how that song is, while it is about like letting go of sort of like societal structures and stuff like that, letting go of what people think of you, it's also letting your power be released, right? Let it go, where she finally is letting her power really be. I mean, she had never allowed her power to do the things that it was then allowing it to do. So that's
she hid herself.
She did. Talk about rewilding. But anyways, and then to move into the mysterious wild, so you have to remove some things like we talked about, limiting beliefs, the dams, to free up the river, which of course, most of them are from myself. And I realized some of the things that I have to remove too is literal and figurative clutter. And we've talked about that. But so I have been, if you're watching, I've been cleaning a little bit, sort of making space, not only for writing, but for allowing in these new ideas. And so that's just the first few things. Oh yeah. And then something else, she was talking about power, and she was talking about being in power with another force. And what it got me thinking about is not being powerless, not being powerful, but being empowered. So that's just a few takeaways so far.
Wild brings up that connotation of nature, right? Just in general, when I think of wild, you think of wild animals or wild flowers, right? Like we already kind of have that built in. And then now what we know about rewilding in general. But when you said her class or her course is, like the mysterious wild or mysterious rewilding, it makes me think of like a expedition or a safari adventure or something like that. And there is that little girl that blew up on TikTok recently. I mean, she's been really popular for the past few years. She's a very smart and well-spoken, probably like 4 or 5-year-old now.
Is she the one you just sent me?
Yes. So there's this little girl and she's dressed up as an explorer and she's like, Mom, explorers don't have to worry. Like explorers have to worry about if they're in danger, if their friends are in danger, and about love and other things. They don't have to worry about if their hair is okay or not.
I loved it.
And I feel like that just totally encapsulates like the mysterious rewilding or rewilding in general is like, what is really important to me and what do I have to worry about? And I don't care about the other stuff because my friends could be in danger, I could be in danger, or I have to like go and explore this thing. And everything else is like pish posh. Who cares? It is
That's
not
right.
important. And so I think that that whole rewilding and finding your power and getting that empowerment is just that ability to have boundaries and to say no or to make space. I mean, earlier when we were talking off air, you were mentioning, you said something about how like I'm just gonna make space to be myself. And I was like, wait, go back, rewind. That's perfect. And like what a thought, because like you're somebody who I imagine or I perceive to somebody who is being themselves. And so that's why I think taking these moments to be like, where can I rewild in my life? Because the I have to or I need to or I should, those things in life creep up on you and they steal from you, and before you know it you have to make room to be yourself. Like how ridiculous.
Yes, not only do you have to make room to be yourself, you have to like go, oh, I am not being myself. I need to like all of a sudden figure out how to be myself again. And I
Or
think
so no, what do you think?
Oh, what I was going to say is, while I think I present as someone who shows up as herself, I want to be even more myself. So I'm doing things like, oh, I'm wearing more rings. I'm, sort of like those tangible things that then remind me to say what I want to say, to react the way I want to react. That, like that.
So the opposite of wild is typically civilized, right?
Or tame.
Or tame. And so when you mentioned that it allows me to be more myself or figure out who I am, so many people talk about that they don't know who they are anymore. And it creates like this huge hole in their life or something to overcome. And I think that tameness of civilization provides you that opportunity to put a mask on or to play this character, right? Or to fulfill a role. And I think people forget that you're not just one thing throughout your life, that there's that if you don't know who you are, that's okay, because and it doesn't necessarily have to be like, oh, I got too lost in a relationship, or oh, such as school really took this from me, or this job really drained me. Like even if you would have had the most perfect relationship and the perfect job, you could still wake up one day and not feel like that person that got you there.
Yeah.
And like nothing's wrong with that. We're here for such a short but insufferably long period of time. We don't have to be the same person throughout all of that. And sometimes that's scary to people, but I think it should be freeing. And I think that's where rewilding, and even if, like you said, I do feel like myself, but it's allowing me to feel like more, it's making space for this constant evolution, so that instead of waking up one day and realizing, oh my God, I'm not that person anymore, you're gradually changing and evolving and just never noticing that you've had the change and you're different.
Right. And also, I think if you wake up and you're like, I don't know who I am, maybe you are just in that transition time of, yes, you were this. And now you've got this space to, it's like a gift in a way to actually be aware, to say to yourself, I don't know who I am. If you're aware enough to say, I don't know who I am, that's a gift given to you. And now you get to figure that out.
And I think there's so many opportunities to be different things. There's so many options that it feels like this vast cavern and unknown. And I'm guilty of this myself too, like just kind of shutting down or kind of waiting for something to respond to and seeing what comes out, or waiting to meet a new character or a real life person and be like, hey, I like how you act. I'm going to steal this. This is going to become a part of what I do now.
Yeah.
Instead of waiting for that, like putting on that explorer mindset, not caring if your hair is brushed or not, and just trying on different things, right?
Yeah. I love that. I guess I feel like with this whole thing, and that's part of the mystery too, is that I don't know where this is going to lead me. Hopefully, no one knows where. Like, that's part of the fabulous, wonderful thing of being human, right? Is you are on this mysterious path, but I'm willing to go down that path, knowingly going down that path. And it's almost like I can see myself walking down this path and picking this and picking that and picking this, and I'm just going to end up with this wild bouquet, right? um
A bouquet, an Amy bouquet.
an Amy bouquet. And and I'm good with that. And yeah.
Well, and I think like that, see, and you're approaching it with a mindset of curiosity and
Yes.
enthusiasm, which I think is just key. But I also, with words like mysterious and rewilding, I feel like a huge part of it is just being willing to be undefined. And
Yeah.
that's really hard in our society, because people like to put labels on it because then they know who to be and they know how to react or they know what box to put you in. And so
Yes.
it's building,
Wow. Yeah.
that support network of people who are okay with you evolving and showing up differently or showing up authentically. And when you're really truly genuine and authentic and wild, you're going to show up different depending on what's in front of you and what's going on.
Right. You aren't going to be the same brand of wild for every single thing, right? You're going to
The
be
same brand of wild.
I am not the same brand of wild that you saw yesterday.
Take that, most dramatic. I'm the most wild.
Okay.
So is there, like, so far in your journey throughout this, how are you tapping into the wild? Is there, how are you, I mean, you talked about physically moving space, but like, how
Yeah.
do you decide what to try on or how you're going to approach a
Really good.
situation or your day?
Yeah. Yeah. Really good questions. And I feel that possibly the next episode will help with that. but but for me right now, yes, I'm creating space for whatever comes up. Meditating, uh lots of meditating, lots of nature, because rewilding, of course, like we said, it, began with nature. And so I feel like if I'm actively looking for that, then I should be in actual nature, right? And so I feel like that helps as well. Um, yeah, I feel like I don't know where it's going, and I'm not sure of all the different steps I'm going to take. But the fact that I've started this class really helps, because at least even though we're talking about mysterious and wild, there's sort of this container for it now. And that can feel a little bit safe, because I could literally be ping ponging off of like this book, that book, this series, doing that, doing this, doing that.
Well, I mean, all those things are a compass. And just
Oh,
like being out in
nice.
the wild and things like
Hmm.
that, you don't have to go north, right? Like you can pick your path, right? And so I feel like you have some guidebooks and some prompts and some here's what my journey looked like. But even if I have a map, it's not going to, the trails might look different, right? And we may have had a mudslide. We have, right? And so you have a
Even if I
general
have a
guide.
guide,
Yeah.
yes, and even if I have a guide, I don't have to follow that guide everywhere.
And at some point they might follow you.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Well, if this episode spoke to your soul and you want to follow us, rewild with us, you can give us some love on your preferred platform with the rate, review, and subscribe. And you can interact with us on Instagram, YouTube under the Brightly Podcast, or via email at brightlypodcast@gmail.com.
And with that, we hope you have a bright and beautiful day. Get out there and rewild.
Run naked. Bye.